clothes out on the line was part of growing up.
Was it?
Yeah. Every summer, you didn't put them in the dryer, you put them on the line. This is from a natural spring in the Czech Republic where people would go drink the water out of here. It was supposed to make them feel better, and if like they had aches and pains and stuff like that, you would sit in the water and you would drink this from another well. They had one that was going into like a big pool, and you could sit in it, and it was supposed to help you, and then drinking the water was supposed to help you if you had stomach problems or nerve issues. It was supposed to help with all that stuff. That's the only thing in here. This bear was mine when I was little, and my grandma kept it after we left, and when she missed me, she would hug it. So I couldn't have it. So when she came to the Czech Republic, or from the Czech Republic to visit, she brought me this one. And I got him back when I went back to the Czech Republic for the first time. By then my grandma had passed away, so I got the bear. Shoes were my shoes when I was little. My grandma saved them, and then my aunt gave them to my mom in the Czech dancing club.
You did not.
So we performed polka.
Can you tell me what growing up in the Czech Republic was like?
As much as I can remember.
Yeah.
I was 5 when we left. I remember bits and pieces. In '68, well, my earliest memory is being in my crib at home. And my crib was actually in a closet in the kitchen, but there was no doors on it. So I could see everything that was going on. And then around the corner was the living room where my mom and dad slept on the sofa bed. That's my earliest memory, and I must have been, according to my parents, about 18 months. Then I remember sitting on a windowsill watching tanks come through town, because we lived, or my uncle lived right in the main drag going up to the Capitol. The Russian tanks were coming in, and I thought it was a parade. Found out later that it was the tanks coming in to subdue, I guess, a turnover of the government. We were under Russian rule from since World War II, and the Czechs wanted to be on their own, not under the communist Russia, and they were trying to revolt, and they came in to stop the revolt. But to me, I thought it was just a parade of tanks, and I thought it was cool because I was a kid and didn't know any better. My grandma was a prominent beautician in the Czech Republic, and there we have St. Nicholas Day, which is December 5th. She knew a lot of the people that worked in the theater, so St. Nicholas Day was a big thing. She had for St. Nicholas Day, you had the angel, St. Nicholas, and the devil. The angel came to tell him, he had a big book that told everything you've done wrong and everything you did right. It was all there on the page, and he went through it, and the angel would sit there and whisper to him that, you know, that he shouldn't be too mad at you, and the devil would sit there and say, oh no, she was a bad girl. And then in the end, you would get a gift and some fruit and some nuts, and your gift was either a gift or it was actual coal.
And you got coal a lot, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't remember that part. But I do remember them. And then the younger guys would dress as a devil and stand on the corner to scare kids just for fun. I got scared so bad I literally jumped on my dad's back because I was terrified of the devil. To this day, I don't like Halloween. I can't stand costumes. So I blame them for that. That's really all I remember about growing up there. And they're not vivid. I remember my great grandma, which is really weird because she died when I was 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember her holding me and looking up at her. And that's about all I remember about growing up there.
Now, you've explained to me that you feel a kind of disconnect where you're here in America and you have some family members still in the Czech Republic. What is that like?
It's really, really hard because growing up here, everybody had aunts and uncles, everybody had cousins. I didn't have that connection with the families that adopted us. I felt that I couldn't go to those aunts if I had a problem. I felt later on that those cousins didn't look upon me as a cousin. It was more like I felt like an intruder or an outsider. When I finally got to go back to the Czech Republic, as the plane was actually flying over and he announced that we're over the Czech Republic, I just started crying. I bawled. I felt at peace for the first time in years. It was like, it's hard to explain. It's like my whole body just let go. It just relaxed and every muscle just was calm. And it was great. I didn't feel like an outsider. My cousins were my cousins. They wanted to play with me. They're all, when I went, I was 22. My cousins were 15, 16, and 9. So they all wanted to do something with me. I felt like family. I didn't feel like, oh, well, we have to be nice to her. So it was a great feeling to go back. And there were things I vaguely remembered where we went. Like, I remembered my grandma's apartment and her beauty shop that was right around the corner in the alleyway. I remember those things vaguely, but not enough to say that I have a memory of them. Mm-hmm. You felt a disconnect at school because everybody was either related or they had grown up together. And I mean, I had a few friends that were in the neighborhood, but even then I didn't feel like I was part of the group. I was never in a clique. I was never in a group until maybe my junior year.
Yeah.
And even then they were a year older, so by the time they graduated my senior year, I was kind of the loner. I got along with everybody, but I was never in a group per se. You know, because we had our jocks and our potheads and everything they have today, but I got along with all of them, the nerds and all that. I mean, the jocks are jocks and whatever. But you still felt a disconnect, and I felt picked on. I was picked on, but I felt it was because I was an outsider. Recently, I found out that one of the girls I went to school with got picked on just as much, and it affected her being a mom, just like it affected me being a mom, because they pick on you and they think it's no big deal, but they don't realize how it affects you as you get older. Mm-hmm. As you become a parent, you don't want your kids to get picked on for the same reasons, so you try not to become overprotective, but the things you were picked on, you make sure they don't get picked on because of those things. If there's something else, that's out of your control, but you try to control what you know kids are mean about.
Yeah. What was it like growing up with immigrant parents?
That's a hard one. They want you to be Americanized. They want you to be an American, but they want you to grow up with the same rules that they had in the Czech Republic, which is really, really difficult. even though I recently found out that my mom had the rules but never abided by them, which was easier for her because they lived in town. We lived out in the country, so it was harder for me to get away with anything.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily a rebel at school, but I had my own ways of
Going against the parental law.
Yeah, and it was always a little sneaky and a little more underhanded and not realized, so I got away with it a lot more. But it was difficult because my friends would have parties or go to parties, and I couldn't go because, well, you just didn't do that. You know, that's not the way we do things in the Czech Republic. I couldn't wear certain clothes because we don't wear those in the Czech Republic. Well, we're not in the Czech Republic. So it was difficult, and I really didn't come into my own until later in life.
Yeah.
When I didn't have that, these are the rules you have to abide by. I could make my own rules. So it was difficult on two levels because you wanted to be a good kid, but yet you had all these outside. The peer pressures were a little bit harder, I think, because you didn't go to the party, so then you got picked on because you didn't go to the party. You didn't get the inside jokes, so you couldn't become part of the group because you didn't go to the party, but yet you wanted to be part of the group. It was difficult. They didn't realize how difficult they made it, and they could only do what they do, and I think now in retrospect they understand what we went through. My brothers were a little bit more rebellious than I was. I still had a lot of what my grandma grilled in me, and what I couldn't do and what I shouldn't do. So I still had a lot of that in my head, which made me, I think, a lot better than the boys. The boys they were born here, so they got away with more, I think, because they were boys.
What are your thoughts on the way America views immigrants?
I think they make it too hard for people to become immigrants, and they make it difficult on immigrants from the fact that they have to pay $400 a piece a year to keep their green card. They have to, if they want to become a citizen, they have to do it before their green card expires, and that's $400 a person to become a citizen. If you're an immigrant, you're not working a job where you're making $1,000 a week. You're working a 9 to 5, usually minimum wage or factory job. You're supporting a family. You don't have that kind of money. And I still can't figure out where that $400 a year goes. Did I say month? I meant $400 a year.
I think you said a year.
Okay. I can't figure it out. If you're getting $400 a month or a year from how many immigrants with green cards are here, that's a lot of money. Why is our budget so bad? I mean, they have the same rights as regular citizens, except they can't vote. There was something, and they can't run for president. Those are the only two things they can't do. They still pay taxes, they still do all that, and I think that's why we have so many illegal immigrants, because it's so hard and it takes so long. It takes 2 years. If I'm applying for immigration, I'm going to have all my paperwork together. You have to have somebody here to sponsor you. You have to have letters from those people. You have to have a job waiting for you. You have to have a letter from that employer. Okay, if I have all of this, and now with the computer age, background checks take 10 minutes. Why is it taking so long? You know, here's your money, here's your paperwork. You should be able to look at that, run the background check, just like you go through customs. It should be that easy. I don't understand what the extra step and why it takes 2 years for them. I think illegal immigration would drop 75%, if not more, if we could get it to the point where, okay, it's on a computer. There it is. Look it up. So I think we're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think when we came to the United States, my mom and dad were told that their green card was good for life. My mom got a letter 4 years ago, I want to say. All of a sudden, their green cards were not good for life. They were not grandfathered in, and she owed $800 that needed to be paid within 10 days, or they had to leave the country. Luckily, they had just sold the house, so they had the money to pay for the green cards.
Yeah.
So now every January, they have to come up with that amount of money to be able to stay. Plus they pay taxes, and you're on Social Security. They're on Social Security because they've retired. It's hard for people to stay in America with their families that they brought over here. There's got to be a better way.
Do you know if it was difficult for them to get used to everything going on when they moved here? To get settled?
I think it was difficult, but I also think it was, what's the word? Adventurous.
Yeah.
Because everything was new, so it was interesting, and it was hard leaving their families. My dad had a really hard time leaving his mom and his dad and all of his brothers, and that affected him for a long time. They didn't always make the right choices because they didn't always have all the information. They only had the information that was given to them, so that's what they had to work with. So a lot of things were, oh, I wish we would have done it another way if we had this other information. I do think it was hard because they didn't have their parents to fall back on. Like we didn't have aunts and uncles to fall back on.
Yeah.
They only had each other, and both my parents worked. My mom was a beautician. My dad worked in a meat packing plant, and it was hard. We had our own house, but it was like every other family. You had chores. You did what you had to do. I think it was harder on them because they didn't have that babysitter of grandparents and aunts, and so it was a little more difficult. They didn't have that freedom like other parents did. I can't really speak for them, but
Of course.
I think that looking back, I think it was difficult.
So, what was growing up like then? You mentioned that you couldn't really be a rebel, but you did have that streak in you.
It was mostly rebelling against my mom with my mouth and not wanting to do chores, or it didn't hit, I think, until I was 16 when I got the car and was able to do what I wanted to do for the most part. I was a mouthy kid. I'm still kind of mouthy, kind of. But I had a job when I was 17. I worked at a restaurant as a dishwasher. Hated that job. But my mom's birthday was coming up, or Mother's Day was coming up, and they had an antique store in the back of in a carriage house behind the restaurant, and I found a beautiful rocking chair for my mom. She's always wanted a rocking chair. So part of my paycheck always went to pay on that chair. They let me lay it away. My mom always got mad. Where's the rest of your paycheck? Does it matter? It's my paycheck. Argument every week. After about 3 weeks of this, I got tired of it. Where's your paycheck? Well, my full paycheck minus gas money was enough to pay off that chair, but typical kid, I want my money. So I'm like, I'll show you. And I left. Paid off the chair, brought the chair home, walked in the house, slammed it down the kitchen floor and went, there's my money, happy Mother's Day. And I turned around and walked out. I was a bitch. I was such a bitch. But she stopped asking me where my money was. Proved my point.
Yep.
You don't always need to know what's going on. I don't drink, don't do drugs. I'm not getting into trouble. Leave it alone. If you don't want to leave it alone, I'm going to piss you off, because you've now pissed me off. When I was younger, if I wanted something special, I had to earn the money for it. We had a little, I guess, boutique in town, and they had a fur jacket, a faux fur jacket with suede. Wanted that jacket. It was $48. Love that jacket. Well, you got to earn the money. We didn't get paid for chores. Chores were to earn your keep. You got a roof over your head, you got food in your mouth, there you go. I babysat 25 cents an hour for a $48 jacket. That was a lot of babysitting. I babysat for this one couple for New Year's Eve, because New Year's Eve you always made extra. Nobody wanted to watch these kids because the one kid was a handful. If you grounded him, if you put him in his room because he was being bad, he'd yell out the window, "Help me, they're hurting me," or whatever.
Yeah.
Luckily, the whole neighborhood knew about him, so it was all right. He would throw knives at his babysitters and his sister. He was a handful.
Yeah.
So I'm making popcorn for us on the stove. The kids are outside playing. All of a sudden, I hear the little girl scream. Run out of the house, down the steps, because their house was actually really high, so they had steps going down to the backyard. He was hitting her, grabbed him off of her, went to throw him in his room. The kitchen's on fire. The popcorn caught on fire. So, put the fire out, threw him in his room, calmed her down. Now I got to get a hold of Mom and Dad. There's no cell phones back then. Mom and Dad are at the hall that I don't know the phone number for the hall. So I'm calling everybody I know to try to get a hold of them to come home because the kitchen's on fire. Or was on fire. It wasn't like fire damage, it was mostly smoke damage. So things were like black.
Yeah.
I think I burned the microwave on top and scorched up above it. But they finally came home, and she's like, everybody's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I said, tonight is free. I'll just, tonight, and then whatever I owe you for the kitchen. She's like, well, what happened? And I told her, she's like, I wanted a new kitchen anyways. You're fine. They came home and actually gave me twice the amount they normally would have gave me. And I'm like, she's like, leave it alone. Okay. I had my jacket faster than I thought. But that was growing up. If you wanted something, if I wanted a bike, a special bike, you're earning it. I was excited when babysitting went up to 50 cents an hour. I could get my stuff twice as fast.
Yeah.
It was difficult because we weren't a rich family. We were a poor family. Everybody around us was poor, but they weren't as poor. We weren't like poverty level. We were blue collar, but at the bottom end of that, or white collar, whichever it is. Where but we were at the bottom of that spectrum. So it was difficult. I wore garage sale clothes, and my clothes, when we went to school, we got 2 pairs of pants and 2 new shirts. At summer, we got 2 pairs of shorts and 2 new shirts. If we wanted more than that, earn the money and buy it. So you're kind of wearing the same blue jeans for half the week and the other pair for the other half of the week, and hoping that nobody notices that you're wearing the same pair of blue jeans, which they always did. So, what, you never wash your clothes? I guess you never take a shower either. Well, now you're getting picked on. You live through that stuff, and it either makes you stronger or it weighs you down. In my case, it did both. I always had it in the back of my head, but yet I learned to fight back with sarcasm and quick comebacks. Well, that doesn't work with your parents, but it works with kids. I got in trouble once, and my mom went to spank me with a wooden spoon, which was the typical punishment. I looked at her and said, "Let me know when it hurts so I know when to cry." Don't ever say that when you're in a house, because there's nowhere to go. Yeah, that was not a wise choice. But those were just different things that we had to go through. You know, punishment was a punishment. You got stuff. You got your butt paddled. You got extra chores. You had to weed the garden without any help. I mean, you learned that if you did something wrong, there was a consequence. Which, as you get older, you realize, okay, if I do this, what's my consequence going to be? You know, it's just something I don't think is instilled anymore. There's no, okay, go do what you want. It's easier than to fight with you about it. No. I want you to be an adult that knows right and wrong, and you might know right and wrong, but I want you to know that there's going to be a consequence.
Yeah, and you're a mother. Did you want to instill a lot of those same values your parents had into your own kids? Did you want to bring them up with different traditions too? Did you want to keep that Czech kind of
we did both.
Value there?
We did both. Like Christmas time, we always had breaded fried pork chops and breaded fish, potato salad, barley with mushrooms.
Fruit dumplings?
We didn't have fruit dumplings for Christmas. That was our poor man's meal. That was when you didn't have any money, but you had fruit, so you made fruit dumplings, which I could have fruit dumplings every night. So we kept that tradition. I kept the tradition. My parents always made it look like Santa Claus actually came. One year, our living room, dining room were separate. And one year my mom put a sheet between the two rooms. And the last time we seen the living room, there was no tree, no decoration, no presents. We couldn't afford it that year. We ate our dinner, a bell rang, the sheet dropped, and there's a Christmas tree fully decorated with presents underneath it. How'd she do it? Well, her and Dad did it while us kids were getting ready, because you take a bath, you put on nice clothes, you dress up for Christmas Eve. We always had Christmas on Christmas Eve. That was tradition. And that I kept that going. You dressed up for Christmas, you did it like you were going out. I couldn't always pull off what my mom pulled off with the Christmas tree and the whole 9 yards, but I could pull off that Santa Claus dropped extra stuff off at the door. So I always figured out either one of the sailors, because we were in the Navy, their dad was a sailor, or one of our neighbors would put the bag behind the door, ring the bell, run off. I always had that, was always able to pull that off until they were, I think I stopped when they were 14, when we came back to the United States, because we spent most of our Navy time overseas. So I kept that tradition for a long time. They had figured it out, but they still liked it because it was fun. As far as values, I think values are the same everywhere. Be kind to people, be respectful to your elders, be respectful towards each other. If someone needs help, help them. You know, you're technically all one family. Help each other out. If you have more of something and somebody else needs it, give it to them. Let them have it, because it's going to come back to you. Someday you might need something they have, and they'll give it to you. So that's the way I brought them up. It's just the basic, be kind. Everybody has an opinion. Don't judge, because nobody's better than you are. Especially in the military community. You're all the same. All your dads are in the Navy. All your dads work for a living. Just because somebody's dad is a chief doesn't make them any better than you, because his dad puts his pants on the same way your dad does. We're all the same. My mouth got me in a lot of trouble in the Navy. Picking me up and throwing me out of the house. I don't remember that.
Maybe you don't want the word check anywhere.
I'll do it online with you if you want.
Rain doggy.